Okay, great. So welcome to today's Quantum Alignment System show. And I'm Karen Flaherty, and I'm being today the co-host is Caroline Gaddy. And so we're happy to have you join us and find out more about relationships and human design and how that affects your life and how it affects almost everything, from career to romantic relationships to your children to everything in between. So we're happy to shed some more light on that. I'll just introduce myself quickly, and then Caroline can do that too. So I am a level 4 specialist. I've been working with Karen Curry Parker for over 10 years now, and happily ensconced in my business called Living by Human Design. I wrote a book recently called Getting to Know You, which is basically a primer for human design. It's available on Amazon, and it basically will help you to, if you're just new to human design, or if you need a refresher, it's a good way to find out a little bit more about how it can help you without all the jargon, how it can help you in your careers, your relationships, your health, and your spirituality. And so I'm happy to be co-hosting with Caroline Gaddy. Caroline, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you for joining us today. I'm Caroline, and I'm a human design level 4 practitioner. I'm also a transformational life coach, and I like to use the two modalities together to help people move forward in their life. I'm excited to talk about relationships again today because that seems to be the biggest thing on people's minds. And I love the way the chart gives us so much information and wisdom and awareness. I think that's what's going to come through on today's questions and answers, is that it comes down to being aware of the energies. And once you're aware of them, then you can work with them instead of fighting them. So I'm excited to go forward.
Yeah, it should be great. And I'll just say up front that we did get a number of questions. I think it's probably a total of about 10. We'll try to get through as much as much as we can. There was one that sent in a composite chart, and so we decided we'd leave that till the end. And by composite, we mean that she sent in 2 charts, one for herself and one for her partner. And so we'll leave that till the end. And if we're looking for charts, I actually don't have them all in one place, Kristen, but do you have access to them, Caroline, or should I pull up the place where they're all?
What is the first chart you wanted to do, Karen?
So we could start with HMK.
Okay.
And so just so you all know, we're just going to go by initials. That way people had asked to keep their identities anonymous, basically. So we'll do that, and so we'll just use initials. So she writes, my relationship question is, I feel I try to please others, my husband, family, and friends, so that they don't get hurt and don't feel isolated from me. However, I'm extremely resourceful and independent and love doing my own thing, especially in relation to my passions. Even at my mature age, she happens to be about my age, which is about 63-ish, I feel I haven't yet touched the surface of what I want and what I am capable of in this lifetime. This is naturally causing me a lot of frustration, as my husband, a retired pensioner with health issues, loves spending time at home with me. I sometimes feel the energies of others influence me, especially if I am not feeling strong. How do I remain true to myself without feeling I am putting myself second? So this is a common a common question, and what it relates to mostly in the chart, as Carolyn and I usually find, is that it has to do with the open centers, because the open centers is where we take in energy from other people, and the centers that are colored in is where we put out energy. That's the ones that are colored in are consistent energy. It's almost like they're like satellite, the opposite of receivers, the satellite dishes that go out and send out the energy. That's what those colored centers are. And then the ones that are white, those are like satellite dish receivers. And so we're taking in energy from other people. So while this is a very, a strong manifesting generator chart, she's feeling like she's basically having to work with everybody else around her and feel their feelings. And so, and even though she's emotional, she's still feeling their feelings. So Caroline, do you want to take a step at it?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say, Helen, you have a lot to offer, and you have so much individual energy in your chart. It's pretty powerful. You're here to help mutate people and drive them towards change, and I can see how you've just got to be chomping at the bit to do things. But you also have a lot of tribal energy that makes you feel that you need to take care of people. You have most of the defense circuit, and you have uh, and this is a lot of these energies are generational too. I want to point out, like the gate 50 is wanting to adhere to the laws and the rules of the tribe. That would include, your husband's expectations, and then you have the energy of being overly committed, having a drive for intimacy and connection. So you've got the conundrum of your individual energy wanting to be expressed, then the tribal energy of wanting to serve the tribe, and then all the openness, the pressure that you're feeling. Especially, I would say, the pressure in your open will center, which is the only gate activated there is tribal, and then the open splenic center, where you have double activation on the gate 50. So again, it's awareness. It's the ability to express your individuality. And also I want to point out, when you have the open root center, as you do, a lot of times we feel pressure to do things that are not stated. So it's really important in your relationships to make sure that you are clear on what people are expecting of you, and that it's stated succinctly. So there may be expectations that your husband has voiced, but there may be other expectations that you are sensing with that open root center and responding to that he's not necessarily asking you to do. And that can apply to anybody in your circle. So make sure that you're responding to actual requests and not perceived requests. And that when somebody asks you to do something or asks you for information, sometimes they just want a yes or no answer. Don't go into the story. Don't feel like you have to go beyond the initial information that they ask for you. Those are things that I find trip up people with that open root center a lot.
Yeah. So, and I just add that, so you're feeling stressed in the spleen, which is taking in everybody's fears. You're feeling stressed in the will because you're taking in everybody else's expectations, and that's where it's really hard to set boundaries. And so I would just say that really it sounds simple, but no is a complete sentence. No is a complete sentence. Whenever somebody says, can you do it? You know what? If it doesn't fit in your agenda, then you don't have to do it. It's just not necessary. And then, of course, in the root, you're going to feel a lot of stresses. And so I would just add that you may not have found exactly what it is you want to do yet, but it's still coming. And if you haven't found it yet, with that gate 8, there's something on the way. There's something where you're supposed to make a creative contribution to the world, and it's probably keeping you up at night. And so with that open G center, which is the big diamond in the middle, when it comes, you'll know it. And so when it comes, I would just suggest make sure that you let everybody know who needs to know, because you're a manifesting generator. You're going to be multitasking away, as you usually do, and you're going to just let them know and then go do it. Because everybody will be much happier when you're happy. Everybody loves you. And if we can remember that and be happy, everybody's going to be in support of you and your new venture, whatever it is. So good luck with that.
And I would add, don't expect people, once you find what you want to do or once you start doing the things you want to do, don't be surprised if people don't quite understand what you're doing at first, because you are here to be mutative and different. It's in your incarnation cross. It's the freak to genius. It's being novel. It's being ahead of your time. So don't feel like you have to explain yourself. Just go do it.
Very true. Thanks, Caroline. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is has the initials SG, and she's a 6-2 reflector. So her question is, what I'd like to ask about and have explored is why, for as long as I can remember, even as a small child, I felt a deep hurt around not being loved as deeply or fully as I longed for. I've always had supportive and loving relationships in my life, but I have realized recently that there is nothing anyone could ever do to fill this void, in quotes, I feel, and it's something I need to heal on my own. It does somewhat relate to feeling like I'm never fully seen or understood by others, and tends to manifest as codependency and withdrawal into isolation. Is that just part of being a reflector, or is there anything else in my chart that might shed some light? Thanks.
Okay, I'm trying to find the chart here.
Um,
I think it's the one without the name on it.
that might be it.
Oh dear, I'm having problems here.
Let me find it.
It's not coming up. Is it showing up? It's not.
Um,
No, that's not.
Okay. If you click open,
yeah, it's
Or
the one that's
try
from
view, that one.
Okay.
Matrix. That's
Do you
it.
see it now?
Yes. Yeah, we
Okay.
do. Thanks,
So
Caroline.
if this person is online right now, I'd be really curious to what your age is. If you're willing to type that into the chat, either on Facebook or Zoom, it would be helpful to know that.
Yeah, just because that has a lot to do with where you are in your life cycles with regard to the profile, which is the 6-2. That being said, if you're less than 30, you're probably still figuring things out and trying to get things to happen. But it sounds like you've been, as you said, for as long as you can remember. So I'm guessing you're somewhere in the 40 to older age group. And I would say that you do have a few things in your chart that do indicate more sensitivity than perhaps the normal reflector would feel. With that open G center, you're always going to question your lovability, and there's really nothing much you can do about it except as you start to heal your own self and get to the point of really loving yourself. But you do also have the gate 19, which comes off the root center, which is all about sensitivity and neediness. So that's always going to be there. That's always kind of a pressure to be needy. The 48 comes off the top of the spleen, which is the gate of depth. It's always going to make you feel, or at least have you, the fear, the false fear of inadequacy. And then off the will center, you've got the gate 40, which is the gate of aloneness, which always makes you feel a little separate than everyone else. So besides being only 1% of the population and being a reflector, you're also going to feel as if nobody gets you, which is probably the case most of the time. Caroline? Did the plane pass?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, great.
Looks
beautiful.
So I would point out that you have 2 alone gates, and they're both doubly defined. So this is a major theme in your life. And they're both showing up in Mercury. So this is actually a lesson for you to communicate about and to share with other people what it feels like to be alone, the different ways feeling alone is expressed, and how to break through that and embrace the love that is in your life and all the blessings that are in your life. So it's a major theme. The thing I wanted to point out is that as you get older, as you get past 40, you're going to switch out of some of that alone feeling, and you're going to start feeling more of a sense of lovability. You're going to have new ideas about what this looks like and how it feels. The other thing that I wanted to point out is taking stock of what you have and writing it down, making a gratitude journal, just making it, just the more you express it, you recognize it, you state you recognize it, but actually recognize it in multiple ways is going to help you experience it better.
And the only other thing I would add is that since you have the open G, as all your centers are open, it's really, really important for you to be in the right place. So if you don't feel comfortable where you are, if you feel as if you're compromised somehow, and energetically in either where you're working or living, then really the best thing you can do for yourself is to get to a place where you feel much better. So whether the community has to change, or the family has to change, or the living or working environment has to change, reflectors are reflecting exactly what's going on in the environment. And so if you're not feeling very comfortable, then perhaps it's time for a change. And it doesn't have to be immediate, but the more things you can change to where you feel comfortable, even if it's the coffee shop, even if it's the library, or somewhere you can, or the park, or somewhere you can feel really comfortable energetically, you'll then have the opportunities coming to you and relationships coming to you that you're really in search of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would point out the also that she has the gate 6, which is the desire for intimacy and intimate connection right there in Jupiter. So the potential to really experience that in the fullness is there, but it's getting past this, the sense of being sensitive and maybe misinterpreting what's going on around you and internalizing it and then, like you said, self-isolating, as opposed to stepping into it and really fully embracing the discomfort with that sensitivity and seeing what it brings you. Because there's a big lesson to be learned there.
Yep. Great. Great. Thanks, Caroline. Okay. So there should be one, from someone with the initials AS. Last name Singh. And her question is, my question is, how can I better communicate in relationship with more informing than reaction? She happens to be a manifester. She says, I seem to always get together with generators. That's the one. So as a manifestor, I would say, well, first of all, the manifestors are only 8 or 9% of the population, so it is sometimes hard to get with, people who, with other manifestors, for example. And, of course, we all think, well, wouldn't it be nice to be with the people who would really understand us? That doesn't necessarily have to be people of the same energy type, just so you know. But if you are with a lot of generators, and of course who isn't, because they are 70% of the population, I happen to be a generator too, what's going on is that you're probably at work or at school or wherever you are, and just working and playing with a lot of generators. And so because of your emotional, your emails are showing, Caroline. Okay, there we go. Because of your, I suspect, because you're emotional, and because it is a rather up and down kind of wave that you're going to feel all the time. I don't know how much time you've known about human design or been experiencing this as an emotional wave, but I would suggest tracking it on a calendar, and then being basically, my suggestion really would be to be out with people when you feel like you want to be out with people, and don't be out with people when you don't. When you're feeling melancholy, it's really much better to be in a creative space and trying to be productive while you're feeling the melancholy, and that will help you to get out of it. It will also help you feel productive while you're in the emotional period. And then when you're feeling better, then be out with the other people in your life, because you'll feel much better. You won't wonder if things are going to pop out of your mouth. And I'll just mention that you do have the gate 51, which is the gate of shock. And so perhaps things are coming out that you don't really mean to come out. Perhaps you're saying things that are a little shocking, or you're doing things that are a little shocking, and then people have a reaction to those as well as yourself. So you'll be informing more, or letting people know what you're up to, versus being reactive, if you'll wait out your wave and make sure that you're feeling good when you're out with those people, or at least better when you're out with other people.
1222.
Yeah.
I would point out that 1222 is in the moon. So that energy, which is pretty intense emotional energy, is what drives you. It's a huge part of your life, and understanding that emotional wave and how it continuously moves. You're never going to be over it. You are always going to live with that wave. It's not anything to fix. So the sooner you understand the rhythm of it and work with it, the happier you're going to be. Again, here's a chart with a lot of individual energy. So you are here to mutate people and to drive people towards change. And the 1222 is a very social channel, but it's social not in the way that a tribal channel is social. It's social more in it, not in a collective way either, but it's social in a way of moving people towards change. And being a manifester with that intense probing energy, it's off-putting to people. So really, really being aware of how you inform people and not letting things just pop out, because Karen pointed out, you have the 51, it's in Mercury, which is all about communication, along with the 41, which is full of imagination and new ideas and wanting to push forward without giving it a whole lot of thought. It's like the out of the gate energy. So there's a lot of impulsive energy here that you have to kind of become aware of so you can work with. What I would suggest is that your signature is peace. If you can look back retrospectively in the last couple of years of all the times that you had actions that resulted in feeling peaceful, analyze what you did in those situations and try to repeat it. And then again, you can go to the situations that make you feel angry, analyze those and try to avoid those actions that led to that situation. Sometimes our past behavior can be our best instructor.
And while Caroline mentioned that you do have individual energy, especially individual is the 4323, which connects your ajna to your throat. And this can be a very, how shall we say, it is brilliance, but it's brilliance at the right timing. And so other times it can sound a little strange. To be honest, it can sound very unique, very individual, and maybe it's not quite the right timing yet. That's the only difference between brilliance and not. And so, but the other piece about it is that it's one of the auditory channels, and people with the 4323 tend not to listen as easily as some other people. Ironically, you also have the gate 13, so it's a bit of a conundrum. The gate 13 comes off the top of the G, which is the gate of the listener. So really, skillfully, you're quite a good listener, but with that 4323, you also want to jump in with the information that you have, and it's what makes the 4323 kind of seem like a know-it-all sometimes. They're the ones raising their hand. I know, and you really want to talk, and you want to be the one, perhaps the center of attention, as a manifestor should be, and yet it doesn't always help the conversation, and it doesn't always lead to enriching relationships when everybody thinks that, or may think that you're the know-it-all. So, so just something to be aware of. It doesn't mean you're any less brilliant. It doesn't mean you're any less here to mutate and change things, but it's just something to be aware of. Okay, so the next one is the initials SP or SLP, and she asks, is there a way to optimize my chances of getting involved with codependent relationships? And if you're on, we'd love to know if that's actually what you meant, or if you meant to get out of codependent relationships. Yeah, that's the one. So oh
dear.
Just keep going. It's the next page. I think it's like the third page where her chart is. Because ironically, most of us are trying to get out of codependent relationships once we know about our human design, because what we find is that most of us are, are trying to be people pleasers, that we are codependent, that we do have a lot of people pleasing in our chart, and you do have the open emotional solar plexus as well as a number of other open centers, and that's probably what's causing the codependency, if that's what you're feeling. Do you want to say something, Caroline?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So is there a way to optimize my chances of getting involved with codependent relationships? So Carolyn and I were talking about this morning. We're thinking that if you do mean that you want to get into codependent relationships, because as a projector, you may want to be in partnership with people, or perhaps a business partnership or a romantic partnership, and perhaps that's what you mean. Shall we answer it that way, Caroline?
I was really thrown by that question because I think I'm guessing she doesn't want to be codependent. There is a lot of activations on that open emotional center, which is, going to cause her to look for the magnetic gate to that and draw that energy into her life.
Mm-hmm.
And then also that open G center is always looking to connect with people, and it's always uncertain about, its lovability and its value.
Mm-hmm.
Those are, the question kind of really threw me because I think that they're looking to not be codependent and to be more independent.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if they were looking to be codependent, they've got that defined spleen, which makes people feel really good being with them, and causes people to stay in relationship with them longer than they should.
Right.
So that's something to be aware of.
Yep.
Again, the open pressure center that ends up with people doing more than they should for other people, just because they perceive that there's this desire or need to do for people. And again, it's being very, very clear about what the expectations are and responding only to the expectations and not to what your perception is of what's expected of you.
Yep. And I would say, in addition, the defined will center is also something that's very empowering to other people, and it'll feel good to be around. You may or may not be in sales, but we call this the channel of the salesperson, because the spleen feels so nurturing and the will center feels so empowering to others that they really love being around you. So if you are in relationships and you want to stay in relationships, that's always a good thing to have. The codependency is going to come from some of those open centers that you've got. And I'm sorry it wasn't clear to us, the question, but feel free to clarify in the box below. Okay, the next one is from VP, or it might be VB. Yeah. That starts with a, yeah, okay, great. So here's our questions, and there's a few of them. I have a few challenges in my family relationships which I don't know how to handle, and here we have a projector. So my family consists of manifesting generators. I feel that I have no value or role to play in their lives and that I am not able to connect with them. Could you give suggestions as to how I could communicate with them? What can I do, or how should I be so that I get more appreciation from them? What in my chart are the positive energies that help me in having deeper and positive relationships with manifesting generators and other types? And finally, what hinders my having a healthy relationship with the other design types? And I'll send that over to you, Caroline, since you're our resident projector, to start.
Okay. First, I want to point out, look at the definition. The only definition in this chart is the G center to the throat via the 1020. This is somebody that wants to express who they are, wants to be seen for who they are. And there is the potential here to speak out sharply and say things that cause distress or friction. So it's very important to be aware of how you're communicating with people. As a projector, you have to wait to be invited, and this is challenging, but you will be so much better heard once people recognize you for what you do and ask for it. Recognize that the people in your life aren't necessarily on your projector fractile. Projectors aren't for everybody. We have very specific people that are meant for us, and we have to sit back and wait for them to show up. And our loved ones may not be the people that need what we have to offer. And this is really hard to accept. It's hard to live with. It's like getting sucked into a trap, the same trap, day in and day out. And it goes back to being aware of how you're interacting and avoiding saying you should. That's a big one for projectors. We're always, because we see so much that people could do to make things better, and it's always you should, and taking more of the stance of, would you like to know what I think, or I have a perspective, can I share it with you? And inviting them to invite you, and then they get the option of saying yes or no, but avoid giving unsolicited advice, especially in a very sharp way, which is a distinct possibility with your definition.
And so I would add that you happen to be a vessel of love in your incarnation cross, and I happen to be that also. And so I can feel the need that you have to really connect with other people. But the vessel of love is really about, as much as it is about relationships with others, it's really about relationships with those beyond the normal scope of of who you're with. And so that may or may not seem possible right now, but you really care deeply, and you care about humanity, and you care about spiritual love and physical love and human love and personal love, your own self-love, and being able to empower others with that love. And then you also have the gate 50, which is interesting because I have that one too. And then that causes you to care deeply, really deeply, about the people that you're, at least your familial family of birth and your, whatever you consider your tribe. And so between those two, it's kind of a hard thing not to feel like you're accepted. And so, as Caroline said, I would just find the people that do accept you, that do want to be in relationship with you, and then broaden it. Somehow, whatever you do for a living or for a hobby, try to broaden it so that you can reach as many people as possible, because projectors have amazing wisdom, and you're here to really serve the planet in a way that's probably a lot bigger than you realize. Okay, thanks for that question.
I want to point out a few other things on there too, just energies to be aware of in our unconscious definition. We have the 18, which is corrective energy. So it's your ability to see and correct patterns, but this can also be you should energy because we see what's not working, and it's, well, right, you should do this. On top of that, you have the energy of being provocative, of provoking people into change. Mm-hmm. So couple those two energies, they're pretty high in the chart, and they're on the design side, so you may not be aware of it. And then you bring it together with this energy right here, the verbal gunslinger. I'm just asking you to, gently to be aware of how you're using your words and how you're coming off to people, because it could be off-putting. And it doesn't mean that you're not to use this energy. You're meant to use this energy, but it needs to be invited out of you instead of just offered. Okay, next chart.
Okay, so the next one is the initial CC, and she did not want her name shown, so I don't know if we have a way of not showing that. Yeah. Okay, that'll work. Thank you. Okay, so her question is, I have the various gates, the gate 49, the gate 4, the gate 37, and undefined emotional solar plexus. These and other dynamics in my chart reflect the challenges I experience in relationships. Relationships are profoundly important to me. I'm aware of my tendencies to be easily hurt in relationships and then to withdraw, and also the challenges of knowing when to hold them and when to fold them, as well as general avoidance of conflict. Can you speak to ways I might more effectively work with the energetic dynamics in my chart and navigate relationships more happily? Boundaries are clearly a big theme for me. So again, a lot of openness in the middle of the chart, where you've got the emotional solar plexus open, the will center, the spleen, and the G. So again, location is important for you because of the open G in terms of both finding the right opportunities, but also finding the right relationships, if that's what you're looking for more of. And then in terms of being easily hurt, I can tell you, except for the open G, I have all three of these open myself. And the biggest thing for the open will center is to create boundaries so that you're, because it's all about lack of self-esteem And 2/3 of the population have this, so it's not unusual. But most of us with the open will do lack self-esteem, at least coming into the world. We do get conditioned that way. And then the open solar plexus, you're feeling everybody's emotions and you think they're yours. So the more you can have awareness about which emotions are yours, and then with the spleen, which fears are yours, the better you'll feel, and the less you'll get hurt. I'm not going to say it's not going to hurt, but it is. You'll be more aware of it, and you'll be able to. I won't say brush it off, and you'll never be the Teflon kind of person, but you will be able to deal with it more effectively. Caroline? Oh, you're muted. There you go. Whoop. Nope.
There we go. I apologize. I want to point out the open emotional solar plexus, and all 3 activations are tribal. This is the drive for deep connection with people, and you want to also bring together this split. You have the center down here, the root and the sacral, and then you have this energy up here. And the desire to bridge the split is huge. I'd be curious as if you do charts for people in your lives, if you're looking for people that are manifesting generators with the 3420, because that would be the easiest way to bridge your split and help you feel a little bit more connected. As Karen mentioned, that Open G Center is constantly looking for validation and love. And with the Open Will Center, it's important to understand you are not here to prove anything. You have nothing to prove. You're here to witness the proof in others, but not prove yourself. So if that's something that keeps cropping up in your identity, that's a notion that needs to be released. You're not here to prove anything. And you shouldn't be doing anything to try and validate yourself. You just need to do what feels correct for you. And you really need to focus on the sacral energy, the responding yes and no, especially in relationships, and determining whether or not they're really worthy of your time and energy. So getting someone to ask you yes or no questions about where you put your energy, who you spend time with, who you connect with, and doing it for the reasons that are correct for you.
Great. And the other thing I would add is that the only themes in your chart are both individual. So the 4323 and the 360 are both individual energies. And so you're really here to make a change, to mutate to mutate others, and really to grow and evolve yourself with that 360, and then with the 4323 to come up with something that's very, again, unique, individual, perhaps a little out there, that you need to articulate to people, and you'll I'm sure you'll find a way. So it looks like you're 1-3. You're probably investigating as we speak, and trying to figure out what that is that you should be doing or want to be doing. But this is what we call a conundrum in the chart, where your themes are really very individual energy. And with the 1-3 profile, you'd rather just be in a bookstore on a Friday night, right? You know, finding new books to read and researching new topics, and getting into those. And yet, because of the emotional solar plexus being so tribal and having those tribal energies, and they are right up in your incarnation cross, that's going to feel like a driver. That's going to feel like you need to do something. I was just trying to see what your incarnation cross actually is. Sorry. So it's and your incarnation cross is the right angle cross of explanation. So you are here to explain things to people. You're here to teach them. And once you figure out what that is, if you haven't already, you'll probably feel a lot better, and you'll have relationships and interactions that will feel a lot better. But always for the emotional solar plexus, the biggest thing is the awareness and knowing that the emotions, if you walk into a room, in other words, you're fairly cool, calm, and collected. You do not have an emotional wave. If you walk into a room and you're feeling pretty good, and all of a sudden you feel this darkness come upon you, or you feel somehow heavy or something. It's somebody else's energy. That would be somebody else's energy, and that gives you the option. You can either change your energy or not. And if you want to feel what they're feeling, great, go ahead. If you're visiting somebody who's sick or going through some trauma or something like that, then you may want to feel a little bit of their energy. But if they're just in a bad mood on a bad day and you just happen to work with them, get as far away from them as possible. You don't need to take that in. And if you can, clear yourself of that energy as soon as you can. And there are different self-Reiki things that you can do to actually clear the energy. Anything else you want to add, Caroline?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, great. So the next one, I'm not sure if we're able to do it, but the next one is that last one that had the questions about the composite charts. Are you able to show the two? So I think she called it, so one person's a projector. Yeah, that's the one. I don't know if you're able to show both. So one person, so these are two charts that she sent, and her question is, I wanted to ask about our compatibility and which way is best to communicate for the healthiest long-term relationship. So I'm not sure if these people are together or not already. It seems that one is a projector, and we're going to assume that the person who sent it in is the projector, since we get a lot of projectors today, and the other one is a manifesting generator.
Yeah, what I would like to point out with this, and I'm going to assume that it was the projector that sent this in. This is a mental projector.
So Jessica just said, sorry, I don't know if you see the note at the bottom. So Jessica said, yeah, we are together, and I am the manifesting generator. Okay.
Oh, she's the manifesting generator.
She is, yes.
Okay. So your partner as a projector is a mental projector, and the mental projector, in order to make their decisions, they need to talk, and they need to talk a lot. And when they're talking, they just need to hear themselves talk. They don't need you to fix anything or give them advice or direct them unless they specifically ask you. They just need to get that information out. So here you are, the manifesting generator. Okay, let's go. Come on, what's the point? Make a decision already. Here, I'll tell you this, I'll tell you that. They're going to want to fix it. So as a manifesting generator, you need to be patient with your partner and let them talk. And don't give them feedback unless they specifically ask for it. Just allow them that space to explore things verbally with you. And that's going to be challenging for you because you're the person that has a lot of things going on, and you're inspired and you're moving forward, and this person's just kind of muddling around mentally, and you're saying, come on, get out of it. But that's how the projector is designed in this particular chart. They need to talk, and they need their partner to be patient with them and to allow them the space. That's probably one of your biggest communication problems. Let me, Karen, did you want to say more before I flip to her actual chart?
So yeah, well, you have the you have the manifesting generator up, right? So that is her chart. So, well, what I was going to say is, as you'll see from the other chart, they're actually a month apart in terms of birth dates, and so they probably knew each other from school or college or somewhere else where you would meet people of exactly the same age, right? And so what's neat about this is that despite the differences, despite that one is a manifesting generator and one is a projector, you would think that might be quite different. What they do share are a lot of shared values. Because of basically the placement of the planets being within a month of each other, they're sharing a lot of the same values. And I'll just use as an example a chart design or composite I did for Amal and George Clooney. While they're years apart, they do share the same incarnation cross, and so they have a lot of the shared values, even though they only have one electromagnetic together, a place where they kind of hook up. They do have a lot of shared values. And so I find that really makes a big difference in couples that I talk to. As long as you have shared values, there really is a lot to talk about, and there really is a lot of potential for a long-term relationship. So do you want to go to the next chart? Or to the other chart, the other partner's chart? Okay, right. So this is the projector partner. And so the partner has the, as you said, and interesting, we've had a lot of 4323 connections today, Caroline. So again, very unique, very individual energy. Although the other channel that he has defined, or the other channel that's defined in the projector, is the channel of the alpha. And so he is, or they are the cross of incarnation, left angle cross of incarnation. So it's about leadership, because the 7 and the 13 are both in the incarnation cross. So they have the potential to be a leader and to be actually a great listener too, because they got the gate 13, but you both have the gate 18, which is the gate of correction. And so you might feel like you want to keep correcting each other. So even though the projector is prone to be the wise one and to want to correct people, so do you. And that, can sometimes cause problems in a relationship.
The other thing I'd like to point out is on the manifesting generator, it's defined through the 2145. And for this particular person, they tend to perceive everything that happens as personal. Everything's about them. Doesn't matter whether it was intended or not. They tend to view the world through that prism. And energetically, it's because of this definition. So just being aware of how you express yourself and thinking before you question people or accuse people of things, making sure that you're clear about what their intention was instead of sharing your perception, because this is real challenging, this particular definition in interpersonal relationships. And I would also say that having the ability and the grace to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I misunderstood, is going to be powerful in your relationships. Owning when you're wrong and allowing yourself to be vulnerable enough to say, I'm sorry, is going to go a long way, because this is going to pop out a lot, especially since the other person doesn't have either of those channels. Or gates, I'm sorry.
Yep. And I just, I wasn't able to put the charts together so that we have one chart because I didn't have all the information, but basically when you put them together, at least in my head, it seems that the only places they have still open are where Jessica is open, which is the head and the emotional solar plexus. They remain open, which is relatively good in a chart. This is the kind of composite we like to see generally. One center being open is optimal, we say, but 2 is certainly portends a good relationship as well. So you might want to find things to do where you can be investigative, since you both have you have the 1-3 and they have the 5-1, and so you both tend to be investigative, and you could explore things, whether it's exploring emotional activities like maybe a play or a movie or something like that, or some other kind of emotional event, or a heady thing like going to a conference or going to a speech about nature or something like that at a museum. There are definitely places for you guys to get together, and that, again, that 4323 that both of you have is, as I mentioned before, it can be very unique and very unusual in the way they think, and because it is auditory, and I mention this because my husband actually has this also, you need to get each other's attention when you want to talk. You may tend, each of you, not to listen that well to the other. It just kind of goes with the territory. Especially that you think you know better, or you think you know the answer. The funny thing about the defined ajna, do you have a defined ajna, Caroline? Okay, so you understand. But the funny thing about the defined ajna is that we can be really sure that we're right, and we can be absolutely wrong. And I've had it happen to me a number of times where I was just absolutely sure of a date, or I was absolutely sure of somebody's name, or I was absolutely sure of something else, and I was wrong. And so it's just having the, being in the relationship enough to to be able to have those moments, realize, oh yeah, I guess I was wrong, and then just admit to it, right? And just own up to it. And meanwhile, getting to talk to each other. Just two little things that I do, because sometimes the 4323, and I don't know if this is everybody, but sometimes they snore. One thing you can do is touch them on the elbow during the night, and that seems to help, or somewhere on somewhere between the shoulder and the elbow. And to get their attention during the day, like dinner's ready, I'll touch my husband on the elbow, because he'll be talking about something, and I'll just say, honey, dinner's ready. Just as a gentle interruption. And so that may work for the two of you. I'm not sure how it works. I know it works when one person has the 4323. I'm not sure how it works together, but I suspect it's worth trying. Anything else, Caroline?
Yeah, the thing I'd like to point out is that the manifesting generator is going to need to be aware that just because of the way they're designed, their partner is going to be feeling pressure. Their partner has that open root, and I've mentioned that one before. Again, they're going to feel pressured to do things, and being the dynamic of a projector and a manifesting generator who's already busy, and the projector is feeling guilty or not enough because they're not keeping up, and then they feel all this pressure in the root. Communication is huge, about the expectations of each other. So just being aware of that is going to be real helpful.
Yep, definitely. So great. Did you, Jessica, have any other questions that we could answer, since you happen to be online there? And we've got a few more minutes before we have to get off, and that was the last of the charts. Oh no, I'm sorry, you know what? There's one more chart. Okay, great, you're good, thanks. Okay, and so the last one starts with an M. I didn't catch her last name. Sorry. Okay, and so her questions were around, it should be the last one. If you go all the way to the bottom, it's probably last. Nope, not that one. Oh, I wonder if it didn't show up there. I mean, maybe she didn't have time to put it in. It's a chart through New Sunware. I don't actually see it there. Here, let me see if I can pull it up. So the chart is from okay, I have it. Let me see if I can share my screen. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry. So I'll, did you stop sharing? Yeah, okay. Yep, here it is. Okay, so this is a chart we just got in last night, and sorry, didn't get into the Dropbox in time. So here we are, and we have a projector, and her question had to do with work relationships, how to be supported in her career and to get a raise, and then with regard to romantic relationships, how to be wanted 100% and be the main focus of my 6-2 generator partner. So do you want to start with that one, Caroline?
Yeah, look at that corrective energy.
Yes.
Oh, can you repeat the question? I apologize.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So she's wondering first about work relationships. How can she be supported in her career and get a raise at some point? And then with regard to the romantic relationship, how can she be more wanted by her 6-2 generator partner?
Wanted or recognized?
I probably recognized.
I think again,
As a projector, I would think recognized.
yeah. First of all, I would caution to be certain that you're not off-putting with correcting people when they're well, not so much correction, but wanting more information or depth or digging deeper maybe than the person is willing to dig because your expectations are so high. Also, I'd look again at the open route. This is just a huge thing in relationships. It's assuming rather than clarifying what the expectations and what the situation actually is. So I would really, really focus on that. As far as work, it may be that you can't communicate your ideas as well because you've got the split definition here. You've got the head and ajna up here, and then down here you have everything else going on. And again, the open route where you may feel like you're responding to expected pressures when they may be expecting something else of you. So make sure that you're doing what is expected of you and that you're not putting your energy in the wrong area, because with the open sacral, there's the feeling of, not knowing when enough is enough. And then the open route, you can be directing your energies in the wrong area and then exhausting yourself. You power through it because you've got this will center along with the emotional center. So you do have two motors, but and you're here proving yourself, but make sure you're spending your energy in the proper way. And again, a communication and clarification of what people are expecting from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd reiterate the stress of the root center, especially when it comes to work, because that's the kind of thing that can have us come in early, stay late, take on extra projects, and all the time you're kind of expecting that you're going to be supported and you're doing all the work. And so people keep piling on, and that doesn't, first of all, it makes you seem as if you're the person they can't do without, but that they don't respect as much or recognize as much because you're always willing to do it. And so basically putting boundaries around that, which you can do with that defined will center, and really paying attention to the defined will, because you do have the self-esteem, you do have the ego and willpower to do things, you can power through, but it's not serving you. And so I would look at the things you're doing and see which ones really make a difference in your career and which don't. Great, and we're at the top of the hour. So I'll stop sharing and we can say goodbye. Thanks so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. We're so happy to fill you in on a few of the little bits and pieces that we can about relationships. There's a lot to be told, as you can imagine, and we're always finding out new things. So stay with us on this journey. Thanks so much, Caroline, and thanks to everybody, and thanks, Kristen, and thanks for attending today. Have a great weekend.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.